This week on MS Refresh, we count down all the items supposedly landing this April, Microsoft backtracks on bribing enterprise users to use Bing, the ins and outs of Teams webinars, and M365 group membership powered by security groups. Cancelled? Question mark. All that and more, subscribe to stay in the know. This is the MS Refresh Show. Hi there, and welcome to the Matt and Sean 365 Refresh Show. This is episode 19 for the work week of April 26th, 2021, coming from the west coast of the United States. My name is Sean Bugler.
And from the East Coast, I'm Matt Wade.
Matt, how are you?
I'm doing amazing. How are you, Sean?
Amazing? I'm fine. I would not say I'm amazing, but I'm fine. I just took my my final exam for accounting. I'm finishing with a 95%, which means I think I can do taxes now.
I don't remember the last A that I got in a college course, so that's pretty impressive. I'm pretty happy for you.
As an adult, I feel like a child in a ball pit. Just kind of.
One step closer to finishing up, though, right?
One more year. One more year.
Yep.
That's how was your week?
Pretty good. Weather was great. Parts of it, we had some snow during some of it. Yesterday was beautiful out. We had the tulips up out in the old park in Albany, so I went down there, splurged and got myself a new toy. I'm going to start playing around with a drone, and got to play around with that a little bit, which has been fun.
We're going to have to figure out how we can integrate that into the show.
I mean, let's not make any promises or anything, but learning the ins and outs of all like the FAA requests, because I live like right on the edge of an airport zone, which makes things a little bit difficult. But apparently the aircraft traffic control tower like responds pretty quickly to a request to fly, and I don't know, it's pretty cool so far.
I didn't. This is interesting. I want to learn more about this. So you have to because you live near an airport, you have to ask the air traffic control tower, like a plane would, to fly near them.
Kind of, yeah. So I had to technically register my device, but it's one of the smaller ones, so it turns out that I didn't actually have to do so. But let's just say belt and suspenders.
You're just a goody.
Yeah, so I'm 1 gram lower than the required weight to have to register, but even so, you still have to register a flight. And because I'm in the zone where you can't go higher than 400 feet, which when you actually fly at that height, it's really high and way higher than you would have probably, I would think, much need to like do a whole lot of filming anyway, unless you were like, I don't know, in the mountains and you were flying out off of like a cliff or something, then you'd go from 0 feet to 6,000 feet very quickly or something, right? Like,
sure.
But yeah, in just general flying around, it doesn't do much. But there's a bunch of apps out there that the FAA has partnered up with where you can put a request in, it goes through their system, and then they keep track. And if you're not in one of those protected zones, you can still register your flight, but it just goes to the app, which I found out yesterday because I thought I had to register but didn't have to. So they just go, we're not going to let anybody know about this, but it's great that you let us know, so we'll keep track. And it's like, oh, so they're just following me now.
Well, that's neat. Okay, cool. Yeah, I remember
cool
that
so far.
was like a big like hullabaloo in the early days of like drones, like consumer drones, is you had to register it, and Big Brother was going to know that you had a drone. And
which, you know.
But, yeah, well, I mean, now we see these news reports of like mysterious drones off the coast of California swarming warships, and I'm like, maybe this was a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, they're pretty technologically advanced at this point, because like if you want to bring it home, it can fly home automatically. Once you try to land it, like it will not crash land. If it senses the ground coming up towards it, it'll just slow down and go down at a very slow rate. Like, it's pretty nice. It's pretty much more idiot proof than the one that I crashed that was owned by work back in 2015. So we'll just put it that way.
Oops.
Yeah. But that doesn't mean there's not things that are not going on in the Microsoft world. So like, why don't we just kick it off to the news?
Let's do it.
Boom.
This is the news. One of the more noticeable Teams meetings upgrades, Dynamic View, is now in public preview. The meeting window will now automatically optimize the layout of all attendees and content in what has turned out to be a surprisingly great effect. Expect to see it by the end of May. To enable public preview, check out the link in the video description below. According to Microsoft's own Mark Cashman, on a recent podcast episode of The Intrazone, the ability to rename a channel in Teams and see them upgraded or updated properly in the corresponding SharePoint folder has begun to roll out. This has far and away been one of the biggest complaints that I've seen regarding Teams and SharePoint integration, so it's a welcome update to say the least. In an accompanying blog post, it was also noted that if the folder is being synced via OneDrive, the new channel folder will not yet update through the synced desktop folder with OneDrive shared folders just yet, but that the team is aware and the issue is being addressed. Through the use of a PowerShell command, it is now possible for Microsoft 365 or Exchange admins to shorten all events scheduled by Outlook in an organization by default. This was already a feature Microsoft had optionally made available to commercial users last year. Now, organizations can choose to implement those changes unilaterally. The command allows admins to determine when and how much time to shave off depending on how long the meeting is. Users will have the ability to set their own preferences as well, which would override the organizational suggestion. Teams webinars rolled out to some users but were then pulled back, presumably for some added work. That said, they're still due, according to the roadmap, by the end of April 2021, which is only a week away from when this was currently filmed. Teams will have built-in support for Adobe Sign functionality due by the end of this month. This will be handy for those who use digital signature routing tools. You can also use the connectors in Power Automate to expand on the relatively simple built-in workflows in Teams approvals. For more on what approvals can do, check out the link in the video description below. Coming by the end of April, you'll soon be able to merge multiple one-on-one calls like you can currently do in the iOS and Android phone apps. We've talked about this functionality before, but presumably, it's actually launching this time. Teams Chat currently has a limit of 300, but that's being upgraded to 1,000 by the end of April. While this applies generally to Teams chats, it seems to align more directly with the increase in meeting attendees, since a meeting chat would be objectively bad if only 30% of attendees could take part. Meetings with up to 1,000 attendees are also due up in April. Teams meetings and webinars will soon support up to 1,000 attendees. Once you break this threshold, attendee 1001 through 10,000 will attend in a special view-only broadcast mode. This feature is due in April, and for now, until the end of 2021, the max will actually be 20,000 to support the increased remote workforce. Who knows if that max will remain or actually be rolled back to the true limit of 10,000 once January 1st comes along. Microsoft Teams meeting-enabled rooms will benefit from live captions soon enough, which can identify up to 10 individuals, identifying them both in the closed captioning and later meeting transcripts. All that and more, hopefully arriving by the end of this month. That was the news.
All right, thanks, Sean. So, what of this week's news stood out to you?
So, first, Microsoft, of course, announced that they're reevaluating the Microsoft Search Rewards, that bribery scheme to get enterprise users to use Bing. They put a thing in the message center a week or two ago, and they're putting a pause on that one. Mysterious,
incredible.
I
grew this beard just for this, inquisitive look. Like when I wonder how that got influenced. Who made them reconsider the fact that it might be, a gift, and that all government workers can't potentially use that feature? Would it be you? Would it be you, Sean? Would it be?
I don't want to take all the credit, but I'm gonna take a lot of it.
97%? No, 95%. In line with your accounting scores.
It's exactly right. That's
right. Yes.
And I don't want to beat this drum too heavily, but if they had government MVPs, somebody could have raised the flag on this in advance.
True.
But that's I don't want to harp on that too heavily. The topic that I really want to talk about for a moment here is Microsoft pulling from the roadmap, effectively canceling for now Microsoft 365 groups being powered membership-wise by security groups. We've been waiting for this for 2 years, 3 years. It's been on the roadmap in some shape or form. And we've gotten pieces of it. We've gotten nods to that, whether it's through dynamic membership, dynamic teams rather, or, open source tools that Microsoft's made available. But to just outright cancel it is really interesting.
Wah.
Yeah, our mutual friend Phil Worrell posted on Twitter that it was canceled. The roadmap item was promptly removed. Somebody from Microsoft, I think it was Mike McLean, jumped on there and said that it was less of a cancellation and more of a reevaluation of the item as it's written and the work they're actually doing. And we haven't heard anything since then. It's been only a week or so since this news broke, but it does, and I'm curious to get your take on this, it does strike me that that means that there's some element of this that, one, we haven't seen yet, or that maybe we're not asking for just yet. Like Microsoft has reimagined what this could be. Maybe, a convergence of how Microsoft 365 group membership and security group relationships work. I'll be interested to see what that actually means.
So I would say, one, I know Mike. I like Mike. Mike knows what he's talking about, so I trust Mike. I have a feeling that this goes one of two ways, maybe three ways. First, it was more complex than they thought, and their deliverable date just didn't align with what they could actually deliver. So they either had to change what they're going to deliver, change the date, or both, right? Which, kind of in line with native notifications in both Windows and Mac OS for Teams. Like, that was 2 years in the making. Or dynamic views in meetings. Like, that's been talked about now for, I think, over a year. And, it's complex, but, it's your platform. You can make that happen. Second, it could be they see an opportunity to upcharge, and they realize they didn't take that opportunity, so let's take that opportunity to upcharge this thing. Because, dynamic group membership is already part of a premium.
AD Premium 1.
Exactly. So why not just bundle those together and call them the same thing? Because they're kind of I would describe that as basically the same concept, right? Why not just call it the same thing? So take it off the roadmap, rebrand it, re-describe it, whatever the terminology would be. And then third, maybe the timing, I've been seeing a couple things be pushed out towards, early fall. And guess what happens early fall usually? Ignite. So from a marketing perspective, it's just easy to say, look at us, we just rolled this thing out at Ignite. So I don't know. Those are my three kind of, conspiratorial projections.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think that you're probably, unfortunately, dead on the money with respect to the potential for upcharge. Because why would you charge money for dynamic memberships for Teams and then just give away security groups for free?
Right.
No. So I'm disappointed. Of course I'm disappointed, especially as you start to, kind of reimmerse yourself back into administration. These are really big value propositions for an organization. I don't want to have to track, we've added a new person to this security group, and now as a separate action, I have to add them to the team. That's like a near one-to-one match.
Right.
It's disappointing. I'm optimistic that we'll see something more than what we've been promised up to now, but as to whether they're going to charge for it or not remains to be seen. So what about you? What was something that caught your attention?
Well, I thought we would talk a little bit about Teams webinars, because they started rolling out earlier this month of April, on time, actually a little bit early, and then sort of were backtracked. Some people got them, and then they were pulled away. Some people got them, they seemed to stay available, and then... Before
you go any further, what's worse? An item getting punted completely, it's April, it's the end of April right now. We just talked about all these things that are supposed to be hitting right now, and it's going to get punted a month, 2 months, 3 months down the road, or it's starting to roll out. SharePoint App Bar comes to mind, and then they stop.
Yeah, don't tease me. Just figure it out and run it through the right testing that you should have done the first time to make sure that it works the way it's supposed to. There are plenty of people out there that are able to test and tap the TAP program, private previews. They have plenty of huge customers that are in private preview agreements. Just roll them out to those people and make sure that it works. I don't see why that's all that difficult. I mean, it is difficult, but not so difficult that you can't prep for a GA rollout. I don't see why not. But so webinars are rolling out. Theoretically, it still says on the roadmap by the end of this month, which is a week from now. So they either have to get their act together or they have to update that date and push it out, which regardless, I thought it was good to talk a little bit about why a webinar? What's the difference between a webinar, a meeting? Teams has live events. So you really have this trio of features now within Microsoft Teams. If you go into the calendar app and you click New at the top and you click the drop-down menu next to New, you'll have 3 options, and it'll be Meeting, Webinar, and Live Event. Why would you use one over the other? Well, meetings have a max of 300 or 350 people, I think it is. That's going to get upped to 1,000 at the end of this month. Well, maybe not coincidentally, but incidentally. And if you go over that number, the next 9,000 people will join as view-only people. Now, because we're in COVID, people are working from home, it's actually going to be bumped up to 20,000. So you can actually have 20,000 people in a meeting by the end of this month. The first 1,000 can attend with video on, speaking. The extra 19,000 attend basically in a view-only mode. They won't be able to use the meeting chat. The meeting chat will have a maximum of 1,000 as well. That is also happening this month. And that's just a meeting, right? A webinar is essentially the same experience, but there's a registration process that goes with it. It's built in. You can send something out. People can sign up. You get a list of all the information that you're asking for, and then they'll get a confirmation email, and they'll get a way to join the meeting later on. This can be internal, external, both, kind of up to you. So the difference between a meeting and a webinar, feature-wise, isn't really huge. It's more about the registration process and the follow-up, because eventually there'll be some connections to like Dynamics 365 for marketing professionals so that you can send out follow-up emails to the people that were in a Teams meeting or a Teams webinar. A Teams webinar. I misspoke there. All right, and that brings us to the upcoming community events. Coming soon to the events world, Microsoft 365 Virtual Marathon on April 26th, Collab Days Nordics on May 10th, the Teams Nation Conference May 12th, M365 Philly May 14th, and Microsoft Build May 25th. Microsoft Build is one of the new things I've come across that are now on the list, which I should point out that their website hasn't been updated since last time, even though it's only a month away. Seems ill-advised. And Microsoft Inspire, the global partner event, is also this July and recently added to the list. As always, view the complete list of events at the link listed below or in the video description. One notable inclusion is the Microsoft 365 Collaboration Conference, formerly known as the SharePoint Conference. Will be taking place June 8th through 10th, and there's something kind of cool about this one. What is it, Sean?
We're going to Disney World!
Well, we're talking tech geek stuff on Disney property at the first in-person event I will have attended since February 2020. The event is hybrid with a skew toward in-person, so if you're in the US and vaccinated, we'd love to see you in person. But if you're not ready to travel yet, that's perfectly fine. Feel free to join remotely. You can save $50 just by using code WADE when you register.
No, you can save $50 by using promo code Bugler. That's B as in boy, UGLER. And show everybody that I'm the favorite co-host. Register for Bugler, not for Wade.
You can use promo code Wade.
Nope, don't listen to him.
Wade.
Bugler. Wade. Bugler.
Oh my God, that sounds amazing. Anyway, we can't wait to see you. If you have the ability and the freedom to travel, especially in the U.S., and you have gotten your jab, we would love to see you. And again, if not, it is a completely hybrid event. We will absolutely love to host you remotely if you can do it as well.
And you should register with the last name Bugler. And I guess we'll go ahead and take this opportunity to jump over to the community member of the week I've taken on the mantle this week. Our community member this week has fashioned himself as a hub of the Microsoft 365 government universe, Jeremy Wood. I'd love to tell you that he's a Microsoft MVP, but government employees can't be MVPs now, can they, Microsoft? He's a regular contributor on the Microsoft Tech Community blog in the government section. He hosts a podcast, The Geek Within, where he interviews people from across the tech community about their origin stories. And he heads up the M365 for Government DC user group, which brings together people from across the sovereign clouds, GCC, GCC High, and DoD. Matt, you were on his podcast, weren't you?
I was. It was a very pleasant experience. I did not walk away with a whole lot of injuries or any marks left behind, and Jeremy's just a gracious host.
He is. No gotchas, which I appreciate. He's an incredible example of what makes the Microsoft community great. And as far as I'm concerned, he's an MVP in my books. So am I. We'll drop his Twitter and blog in the show notes below. Be sure to give him a follow. And if you're in the government universe, check out the DC user group. They meet virtually every month. They meet each month virtually. There it is. Matt, back to you.
All right, well, I think that just about does it. Thanks so much for watching. As always, a like and subscribe is much appreciated. Leave a comment below to start the discussion. Sean, thanks for joining me this week, and I can't wait to hang out with you and everyone again next week. And I can't wait to see you in person, and maybe some others in person, in just a few weeks.
Yeah, so they open source the whatever it is, the internal app that they host somewhere that, you know, just synchronizes the team's membership with the security group. So like they just have a thing in Microsoft that does this. They've canceled the feature because they don't need it, because they have a thing that just does it, and they've released it, which good. They should be releasing more of that stuff.
Imagine how many of those quick fixes and things that they have internally that they built.
Absolutely. I mean, there's tons of them. Yeah, I think that there's this misnomer that people think that Microsoft uses these tools vanilla, and it couldn't be farther from the truth. They use extensions, they use third-party plugins, they use custom-built code that never sees the light of day. If Microsoft wants to hire me, like, hey, Microsoft, if you've made it this far, I'm open to job opportunities. I will happily come in and knock down walls and just open source everything. And I'm going to make sure that we hold you to that standard that you hold yourself to. Microsoft, put that GitHub acquisition to use, why don't you?